of a phylogenetic tree. So, just a reminder, when we talk about a phylogenetic tree, we're really talking about relatedness between different species based on shared characteristics and their biological classification. So, when we look at the example we talked about in class, we have our classification where we have really broad classifications. For example, kingdom. The kingdom Animalia includes things like birds and octopuses and humans. We then go down phyla, class, order, family, genus, and then finally species. And ideally within this category, there is one individual species, such as Homo sapiens or humans, or Canis lupus, a wolf. So when we then apply these classifications to a phylogenetic tree, we can see a couple things. The first is going to be a structure of organization based on classification, in which there should be one line for a group of individuals if they all belong to one classification. So for example, if we go to the order Carnivora, all 5 species belong to that order. But when we go down to family, we have 3 families. We have the Canidae, we have the Mustelidae, and we have the Felidae. 3 different families that belong to a broader order Carnivora. And then we have 4 genuses, Canis, Lutra, Mephidus, and Felis, which then gives us our 5 species: cat, striped skunk, European otter, domestic dog, and wolf. And because these species all have undergone evolution throughout the past to exist as they do now, this relationship also shows a function of time, in which at a certain point in the past, a population of some species that were canids split up to form domestic dogs and wolves. A little further back in time, a population that were Mustelidae split into 2, which gave rise to the otters and the skunks. And even further back, there once was a population of carnivores that split up or experienced different forms of evolution to give us cats, the skunks and otters, the dogs and wolves. So this also is a function of time. We call 2 species that are really closely related to each other sister taxa, and the furthest common ancestor for all of these species is when they all have identical traits. We call these shared derived characteristics. They're shared and they're derived from their ancestor. So, with that, you should have a Google Sheet that looks something like this. You should have about 8 species, give or take, that have classifications for all of their species. If you can find information about their evolutionary history, that would be really important as well. Now, to organize this sheet into a way in which we can make a phylogenetic tree, we're going to press Control-A twice, highlight all the data, and then we're going to go to Data. We're going to press Sort Range, and we're going to do Advanced Range Options. I'm going to press Data as header row, and I am going to start sorting my data by the first column of classification. Again, we're going from domain all the way down to genus, so least classifying, most classifying, and find where I see differences. And those differences appear to be at the phylum. So I'm going to pick phyla, and I'm going to do A to Z. I've already done this, so I now have my arthropoda here, my chordatas here, and my echinodermatas here. Basically, we have our backboned species, our exoskeletons, and our soft-bellied individuals. I'm then going to sort my data by classification. The reason why is within my chordatas, I have 3 or 4 different classifications of chordates. I have mammals, I have bony fish, I have cartilage fish, and I have something that I don't even know what a diplodocus is. That is a new species for me. And then I'm going to sort my data again by order, because within my mammalia population, I have 1, 2, 3 different classifications. So I'm going to do that by order. And then within that, I have 2 primates, but they're both in the Hominidae, so I don't need to sort by family, and then I would get to genus. So I'm going to press sort, and here's my data. So when it comes to making our phylogenetic tree, horizontal lines are always going to be representative of one shared characteristic or one shared classification, and when we see a divergence, we're then going to have a branch where we see some verticals. So I have a good example of here where I have 3 species that are all chordates. So they all are in the classification Chordata. And then some of them are mammals and some of them are amphibians. So that's where I have this branch point here where mammals and amphibians separate. Because then I have 2 different types of mammals, wolves and humans, we have shared derived characteristics for these 2 mammals. So both humans and wolves have body or fur or hair, they have live births, they have mammary glands. These are characteristics that all mammals have. And amphibians all have moist permeable skin. Because I go all the way from amphibians to genus species, because I don't have other ones, I might also write some other boxes for the other classifications. But let's take a look at Rowan's data and start making a version of that. You can use a Jamboard if you want, or you can do this on paper. It's totally up to you. So I'm going to start off with a straight line somewhere in the middle. And under here, then I would write some text boxes. So the first text box I'm going to write, if I go back and look at my data, would be eukarya. And this would be where I'm just saying that all of my species are eukaryotes. I'm going to then have a box a little bit over to the right here, and I'm going to then do Animalia. All of my species are animals. And then I get to my first branch point. My first branch point is where, at a certain point in time, there was evolution that occurred that made one population change in terms of its total characteristics. I have 3 branch points. I have Arthropoda, Echinodermata, and Chordata. I'm going to have the 2 branch points for the 2 single species on the top, and then I'm going to have mammals, mammals down below. And this would be where then I can do more text boxes. Where are my text boxes? There they are. And I'm going to do Arthropoda. That's not what I want. Arthropoda. And then down here would be echinoderms. Here would be mammals. Now when I get to mammals, I should note that, or with chordates, sorry, not mammals. Ugh. And I look at my chordates, I'm going to notice that I then have 1, 2, 3 types of chordates. So I have the 4. I have the A's, the C's, the D's, and the mammals. So then I would have later on in my branch point a horizontal line where I am then going to have 4 different lines for my 4 different classifications. So I'd have 1 line for the bony fish, 1 line for the chrongiosites, which are the cartilage fish. I'm so curious what a diplodocus is. Oh, it's a dinosaur. Very cool. And then 4 for the mammalia. And you just keep doing that until you end up with all of your species on a current line. One thing that I didn't do that I would then go back and change would be, for my arthropod, I would make this a straight line that goes much further over to the right. And here would be where I then do a text box and do G.S for genus and species, and then write down, bumblebee. Wait, I'll do it in the bombus. The bombus, I don't see the species there, but that would be the genus species. So I just say bumblebee. The only thing that you could start doing to get ahead of yourself might be starting to look at some of these large classifications and start looking for shared derived characteristics. For example, what are all arthropods have? What is a characteristic of all animals? This will be work that you do on Friday, but it's just a good step to get ahead of yourself with. I hope this video has been helpful. Come see me if you have questions. But again, Friday will be where you take your individual phylogenetic tree and combine it with other people's phylogenetic trees in your groups to make much larger representative family trees. Enjoy the rest of your day. I hope this has been helpful. Take care.